The canvas strategy, the move nobody tells you about. I need you to stop scrolling right now because I am about to tell you the one strategy that separates people who stay broke and unknown their whole lives from the people who eventually run everything. And I will be talking about 7 people who used this strategy, their quotes, and what we can learn from their stories. And the 8th person is the mystery. So let's start real talk. Here's what nobody tells you when you are starting out. You know that feeling. You have put in the work, you have studied, you have grinded, you show up, and then you walk into the room and somebody else gets the credit, somebody else gets promoted, somebody else gets the opportunity that should have been yours. And you're sitting there thinking, what I'm doing wrong. Here's the brutal truth nobody wants to say out loud. You are playing the wrong game entirely. You have been taught to compete, to grab, to protect your ideas, to make sure everyone knows what you did. But the people who actually win, they figured out a complete different cheat code. It's called the canvas strategy. And once you say it, you cannot unsay it. Let me break it down in the simplest way possible. Imagine a painter, Picasso, Van Gogh, whoever. Everyone remembers the painting. Nobody remembers the canvas. But here's the wild part. Without the canvas, the painting doesn't exist. The canvas strategy says this. In the early stages of your life, your career, your journey, become the canvas. Don't fight for the spotlight. Clear the path for others. Make them look good. Solve their problems. Give without asking. But if you didn't get this definition, listen to my definition. In plain words, the canvas strategy is like never outshine your master. Help people without wanting anything in return. Sounds crazy, right? But here's the question. Why would you do that? Because of what Ryan Holiday figured out and put in the Truth of Patterns. He said, the person who clears the path ultimately controls its direction, just as the canvas shapes the painting. You don't just support the art, you shape it quietly, powerfully, and permanently. And while everyone else is fighting over who gets credit today, you are building something that lasts forever. Now, let me show you this is real. 7 people who used this strategy from history to the present. First, Julius Caesar. He bought loyalty before he bought power. Before Caesar was Caesar, before the statues, before Altuburuti, before all of it, he was just a broke young Roman politician drowning in debt. You know what he did? He threw parties for the common people. He paid off strangers' debts. He did favors for powerful men and asked for nothing back. Everyone laughed at him. Ha ha ha. This idiot is giving away money. Ha ha. He doesn't even have. But fast forward, those same common people, they marched through fire for him. They crossed the Rubicon for him, and they made him the most powerful man on earth. He didn't take power, he earned it by serving first. So Caesar said, experience is the teacher of all things. And here's the lesson. Give loyalty before you need it returned. The ROI on generosity is insane. It just takes longer than you expect. Now let's talk about the second person, Steve Jobs. He stole like an artist. Okay, so people say Jobs was some lone genius who invented everything in a vacuum. That's not what happened. Steve Jobs went to Xerox PARC in 1979. Xerox, yes, the printer company had already built the mouse, already built the graphical interface, already built basically everything that would become the Mac. And their own people didn't even realize what they had. Steve Jobs walked in, studied everything, absorbed everything, and said quietly to himself, I see what this becomes. And you don't. And he didn't fight them. He didn't expose them. He learned from their canvas and patented something the world had never seen. So Steve Jobs said, creativity is just connecting things. Your biggest breakthroughs are hiding inside other people's unfinished ideas. Serve, observe, and connect what others can't see. Now let's talk about the third person, Oprah Winfrey. They fired her, but she won anyway. This one hits different. Oprah Winfrey gets fired from her TV reporter job. They all tell her she's too emotionally invested in her stories. She's too human. She's too real. She's too much. So they demote her to hosting some tiny, struggling morning show in Chicago called AM Chicago. They basically threw her in a corner and said, "Stay there." And instead of fighting it, she poured everything she had into that little show. She showed up for the audience completely, gave them herself fully, honestly, without holding back. Within a 1 month, the ratings flipped. Within a year, it became the Oprah Winfrey show and went national. She didn't demand the spotlight. She just kept the canvas so pure, so genuine that the spotlight had no choice but to find her. So here's the quote of Oprah: "The more you praise and celebrate your life, the more there is in life to celebrate." And if we talk about the lesson is that when they push you to a corner, that corner becomes your stage. Serve the moment you are in, not the one you wished you had. And now let's talk about the fourth one, Abraham Lincoln, the man who lost everything and still showed up. Let me hit you with Lincoln's losing record real quick. You will shock to know. So listen to this very carefully. Lost his job, business failed, lost his fiancée, nervous breakdown, lost Senate race twice, mocked nationally as a hillbilly. But today's standards, LinkedIn would have cancelled him. Twitter would have clowned him. Everyone would have said, "Just give up, man." But the whole time he was losing, he was serving, representing ordinary people in court for almost nothing, fighting for causes nobody else would touch, building quiet trust with thousands of people across Illinois. No drama, no announcing it, just showing up and doing the work. Until one day, they needed someone exactly like him, and nobody else existed except him. So Lincoln said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." And now let's see the lesson. The lesson here is that preparation in obscurity is the strategy. The axe sharpens in silence. Now let's talk about the fifth one, Steven Spielberg, the kid who snuck in and never left. Steven was a teenager who couldn't get into film school. So you know what this guy did? He put on a suit, grabbed a briefcase, and just walked onto the Universal Studios lot like he worked there. For an entire summer, he wandered around, watched shoots, asked questions, and made himself useful whenever they could. He helped, he observed, he absorbed everything. Nobody invited him. He made himself impossible to ignore, not by demanding attention, but by being genuinely, obsessively useful. Eventually, our director noticed him, gave him a shoot, and the rest is history. And he's the guy who has given one of the best movies. That's Jurassic Park and Catch Me If You Can. Yeah. So Steven Spielberg said, "All good ideas start out as bad ideas." Yeah. The lesson we can learn here is that get in the room by being useful. Stay in the room by being unforgettable. The invite comes after the value, not before. Now let's talk about sixth one, Kobe Bryant. 4 a.m. no audience, no excuses. Everyone knows Kobe was cold. But do you know why? When Kobe entered the NBA, veterans ignored him. Shaq barely acknowledged him. He was 17, a kid. So he started showing up to practice at 4 a.m. not to be seen. Nobody was even there to work, to sharpen, to build. He studied film obsessively. He asked every coach every question. He pushed other players harder in practice, making them better, while quietly making himself elite. He was not performing for the crowd. He was performing for the craft. And one day, the crowd caught up to what he had already become. Kobe said, "Everything negative, pressure, challenges, is all an opportunity for me to rise." The move or the lesson here is that do the work when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. That's when the real canvas gets built. Last but not the least, and now we're going to talk about Sam Altman, the most powerful guy in AI answered founder emails at midnight. Before Sam Altman was running OpenAI, and reshaping civilization with AI, he ran Y Combinator and his whole philosophy, radical obsessive service to founders, answering emails at midnight, making intros for free, sitting with the struggling startups for hours going through their problems, giving his time, his network, his brain without billing anyone. He made himself the canvas for an entire generation of startup founders, and those founders, they became some of the most powerful people in tech, and every single one of them owes Sam something. Sam Altman said that the best way to become successful long term is to make the people around you successful. The lesson here is that in a world where everyone else is screaming, "Look at me," the person who looks at you becomes the most magnetic person in the room. So, how do you actually choose this starting today? Look, I'm not gonna tell you a fluffy 10-step list. Here's the real stuff. Step first, walk into every room asking, what can I give? Not what can I get? Not will they like me? Just what problem can I solve right now for someone here? Step 2, give credit publicly and loudly. Tag people, shout them out, amplify their ideas before your own. Watch how fast your reputation changes. Step 3, do the job nobody else wants. The work everyone avoids is your fastest highway to being seen. Own the boring, master the unglamorous. It always pays off. Step 4, drop the ego, keep the ambition. This is the hard one. You can want to be great and be humble while you're getting there. They are not opposites, they are a team. Step 5, play the long-term game. The canvas strategy isn't a 30-day hack. It's a 3-year compounding machine. Plant seeds, water them, stop digging them up every week to check if they are growing. Here's the final thing I want you to sit with. Everyone is fighting for credit. Everyone is screaming to be seen. Everyone is asking, what about me? And while they are doing that, the quiet ones are building something, serving something, becoming something. And one day, without warning, they run everything. Say little, do much, and sit above. That's the canvas strategy. That's the whole cheat code in 4 words. Say little, do much. That's it. But for people who don't understand this, listen to this in plain words. The canvas strategy is like never outshine your master. Help people what they want without wanting anything in return. Because greatness comes from great work, aka hard work. It means you are the least important person in the room until you change that with result. There's an old saying, say little, do much. Helping yourself by helping others. That's what the canvas strategy is about. Always remember, the person who clears the path ultimately controls its direction, just as the canvas shapes the painting. If you want to be a great mentor, first you have to become a great mentee. If you want to lead, first you have to learn how to follow. It means you have to let them take the credit of your work until you become so big to be ignored. That's what Benjamin Franklin did. Benjamin Franklin used to write letters under someone's name and let them take the credit first until it became so big to be ignored. If you want to know the full story of Benjamin Franklin, how he used this strategy, just let me know. So, what do you think about this strategy and how you use it? Just let me know. Until that's being said, Akanti out.